On this episode of Ham Nation, we talk about Field Day and what everyone's plans are this year. And Bob has a special guest in with a really tinker toy antenna. Ham Nation is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by DX Engineering. DX Engineering offers practically everything you need to outfit your shack, plus the fastest shipping in the industry. Most in-stock items ship the same day, Monday through Friday until 10 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit dxengineering.com/hamnation. By LDG Electronics. LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art automatic antenna tuners and related products for every amateur need. Visit ldgelectronics.com to learn more. And by ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 407, June 19, 2019. Don't forget your Tinker Toy antenna at Field Day.
Good evening, everybody. It's K9EID, and I'm here in Pleasant Hope this week, and we have a real show tonight. I mean, it's going to be a show of Tinker Toys. You'll understand that in just a minute. We are a bunch of Tinker Toys anyway. We got Gordo with us. Gordo, I know that you're halfway a Tinker Toy sometime, right?
All the time.
What about
actually, Bob?
Well, if I talk to Susie, that's probably right. What about you, Don? I don't even have to ask you.
No, you don't have to ask. No.
Well, seriously, you'll see in a minute, but George is standing by. Valerie's with us. We're here to talk about Field Day, antennas, and how to put things together. I just got a release. That's why it took us a little longer to get on the air, from Tim Duffy. We've had another amateur radio operator die because he didn't have the right preparation. He didn't have a guy tied off at the top. And we'll get into that in a minute. I just got this, and it's just really sad that ham radio operators, all of us, don't heed what we need to hear. But we do have some happy things, and I'm here to introduce a friend of mine that's just a few miles from our plant back in Illinois. Here's Jim, KD9FQC. And Jim, how are you doing? Everything okay in O'Fallon?
Oh, doing great. We just have a few sprinkles here, and they're gone.
All right. Well, the reason I have you here is we both belong to the St. Clair Amateur Radio Club, and I picked up the newsletter Thursday or Friday, and on the front cover was your antenna. And your antenna, you call it a Tinker Toy antenna. Tell us a little bit about what you did. This is very, very cool.
Well, I wanted an antenna that I could compact, make it portable, that I could stick in the saddlebag of my motorcycle and go out and do portable. I love to do portables. And so I was looking in the ARRL antenna book. I got a big one that my Elmer gave me. It's old, but the information is still good. And I got some ideas and got on the internet and had some ideas and just decided to go ahead and make it. And I made it out of wood, half-inch for the main boom, and 5/16-inch dowels for the spreaders, and 2x4 that I cut down for the hubs, and put it all together. It's not glued.
This thing,
it can come apart as soon as I hit myself. And I can take the wires off and fold it up, and I can put it inside a Ziploc bag.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. There's a picture. Gordo, what do you think about this? This is one of your students, Gordo. All of this happened because he got a hold of your license manual. What do you think, Gordon?
Well, that's terrific. And, it's so important that beside just getting the ticket is to start getting involved in ham radio. And what a great project, Jim. Jim, so it's directional, and it looks like the red end is the reflector and the blue end is the director. And as you rotate it on weak signals from repeaters or simplex on 2 meters, you can hear the directionality okay?
Oh yeah, it's surprisingly it's very directional, and it's I don't know what the true gain is, but estimate would be somewhere between 9 and 13 dB. I've hit a repeater 30 miles away with just a 1 watt radio.
Wow, that is terrific. Now that looks like a very expensive antenna. How much were the parts about?
Oh gosh, I think at most it might have been $10.
$10. That's great. And you take that motorcycle mobile in the plastic bag, assemble it, and you go to a mountaintop or a building top. Well, not with a motorcycle, but where do you operate?
I'd like to go to high ground over by Memorial East Hospital. There's some high ground there, and over in Shiloh, there's a cemetery that's nice and quiet. Pardon the pun. It's one of the higher grounds, and I can just go out to the park, and several parks are near, and it's just
that's
I got a strange pull it out.
And, the best part of antenna and mountain topping or cemeterying is just the little bit of humor that you impose. So, Bob, I think we've got a winner, not only in Jim and his career of ham radio as a brand new ham, but in putting together things, having them work, and the thrill of actually building something and actually have it work, which only works for me a couple of times, but for Jim, it looks like a real work of art. Bob, what do you think?
Well, I saw that article in the St. Clair Amateur Radio Club newsletter, and it just takes me back so many years when I first got in this hobby. I was so excited to do something, and there's our Jim, man. It's just wonderful. So he's on a lot of other. He showed me some other antennas, and maybe we'll have him come back and show you some more of that. So, Jim, you keep going, man, and please stay in touch with us, and we'll try to see what else you got going. Okay,
I next think I'm going to do about a 5 element and see how that works.
Oh, wow.
You're going to need a bigger bag.
That's great. Well, thanks so much, Jim, and sure great to see you. And we just wish you the best success in all you do with ham radio, because beside just getting the license, you're making it happen. Very best 73, and hope to hear you on maybe field day, maybe through a satellite pass, which that antenna should do nicely.
I hope so. Okay, well, have a good one. 73s to you and everyone out there.
Thanks very much for spending time with us, Jim. That's great. That's great. Don, before we come to you, I just got this press release from Tim, and we've had another amateur radio operator die because of a malfunction on a tower installation. A tower section he was working on collapsed in Pennsylvania. It was Lee Parsons, N3LPJ, and he was the president of the Susquehanna County Amateur Radio Club. And
oh boy,
Gordon, what do we do? Like, how do we get this message out? We're trying, but what happens, Gordo?
Yeah. And it's really sad. So tonight when we do the short shots after we go to Don in just a moment for DX Engineering, some of the short shots will underscore the importance of this field day for 2 days, where actually 3 days, where we really need all of our hams throughout the world to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the number one thing. Okay, well, let's go on down to Don, and we'll come back to you in a minute. Gordo, Don, how are you doing? You okay? And you got a word from DX Engineering.
Yeah, we're good. We're very good. We had a very enjoyable Father's Day. Yesterday was my wife Dawn's birthday. And, yeah, we're doing excellent down here. And, man, just our hearts go out to the gentleman who lost his life. You know, you can't – some things happen that you have absolutely no control over. I mean, that's going to happen. But you need to always make sure that you are as prepared as you possibly can be when you climb on a tower. And that means just like Jim and me and anybody else who rides or used to ride a motorcycle, there's a phrase called ATGAT. And it stands for, it's an acronym for all the gear, all the time. Anytime you get on that bike, you have your helmet, you have your gloves, you have your jacket, you have your long pants, you have your boots. Same thing when you go up on that tower. You have your harness, you have your ropes, you have a hard hat, you have everything, and you have the plan. And that's part of the all the gear, all the time thing. And man, we just can't talk about that enough. And, you know, Tim Duffy is a big champion for tower safety from DX Engineering because he's been there and done that, and he's an expert in it. And everybody at DX Engineering, they're experts. You know, we normally talk about, when we talk about DX Engineering, we talk about all the great gear you can buy there at DX Engineering. But tonight, we're going to talk about the great company. I mean, everybody already knows about the amazing selection of ham radio gear that DX Engineering offers, but the DX Engineering customers get so much more, a high level of customer support from a team of amateur operators who, like Tim, have been there and have done that. And they go above and beyond to ensure customer satisfaction because they love what they do. And DX Engineering makes getting the equipment that you need fast and simple, too. Ordering is simple. You can call the DX Engineering toll-free number 7 days a week or purchase 24/7 from the easy-to-use website. You can expect fast and affordable shipping, in-stock orders placed before 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Same-day ship. All the products are expertly packaged in their warehouse and shipped directly to your door. They have the best bubble wrap. Man, if you've ever ordered from DX Engineering, you get that. But they have the best packing and the best bubble wrap. And, of course, all the DX Engineering customers enjoy free standard shipping for most orders over $99. You can expect a high level of support during and after the purchase, too, should you need it. You receive direct assistance from active hams. People who speak your language can answer your questions and help you make the right purchase decision. In fact, the DX Engineering team has 300-plus combined years of amateur radio expertise. They know what they're talking about, and they can help whether you're interested in digital modes, DXing, MCOM, anything about ham radio. Just email or call for prompt technical assistance or for fast answers about your order. Tracking your shipment and payments, go to DX Engineering's online Help Center. You'll find that on the website. And DX Engineering also designs and manufactures and sells its own private brand of amateur radio products. These include DX Engineering's patented crimp and solder PL259 connectors, ISO Plus Ethernet RF filters, advanced design thrust bearings, patented radio plates, coaxial prep tool kits, and way more items than we have time to talk about today. And all the DX Engineering branded products come with the most detailed, easy to understand manuals in the business, all crafted by their own technical writer. DX Engineering ships faster than anybody else in the industry. Most orders placed by 10 p.m. Eastern are shipped the same day with proven products and expert advice. DX Engineering is helping you shrink the globe. Request your catalog or shop online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at dxengineering.com/HamNation. You will not be disappointed. And we certainly appreciate DX Engineering for everything they do for us here at Ham Nation. Back to you, Gordo.
All right. Well, thanks, Don. And we so much appreciate your great comments and all the support that DX Engineering has, plus Tim's personal support of tower safety. And, you know, you've got to be safe around Field Day, and we hope everybody has had an opportunity to download the American Radio Relay League's ARRL 2019 Field Day rules. And all of the rules, we're gonna briefly go over some of them, but the final rule, Rule 7.3.17, says extra points for having a safety officer. And a safety officer, their beginning to manage the field day setup is so important. Safety glasses. Now, I know they look a little bit of cornball, but how many have you seen tie ties? You all know the plastic tie ties. This is your eyeball. Here's a plastic tie. This is your eyeball. And that just slipped right into it. So as my ophthalmologist says, be very careful, because your eyeball, much like an olive, much like a grape, is so porous through something sticking through it. So don't let this be your eyeball with a tie going through it. So, Victor, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and look at the short shots and talk all about field day. First of all, field day has extra points for having a field day setup that is on public location where people can see to come on in and see the activity. And getting all the activity ready, you need to do a little bit of pre-planning, and hopefully you're well beyond the pre-planning stage right now, in that you've got everything loaded up as we do here, ready to roll. And again, look at all of those sharp, pointy things that can get you into trouble. Have a good field day plan, and that plan is either individual stations where you all operate individually and your antennas are as far apart as possible, or a setup where you're operating together as a group with a coax going out in all directions. And it really helps ahead of time at the house to get everything pre-marked and pre-planned. So when you're ready to go ahead and put together the field day materials, you're ready to roll here. And I think everybody's got safety glasses, because I insist on it anytime we're assembling an antenna. But let me tell you, doing an antenna on the ground is going to bust your butt. So what we recommend is from the Orange County Amateur Radio Club here in Southern Cal, they bring in sawhorses. Oh, my gosh, how much easier it is to work with sawhorses than doing the antenna assembly on the deck. And after you get if you're doing a directional beam antenna, you can point the beam antenna straight up with the reflector on the ground, then the driven element, and then the directors. And that would allow you to do an SWR measurement before you get it way up in the air, because once it's up in the air, you don't want to take it down to make finite adjustments. So have your SWR crew ready to roll and look at that beam. And again, just stand it up on end on its reflector. Safety alert, safety alert. Look at this. No helmets. This is nuts. Everybody should be cautious. Even assembling a simple tower like this and pulling it up with ropes and so on, everybody on the deck should have protective safety gear aboard. Even though you might not be climbing the tower, it's still good to be ready. And as we showed you, my personal pet peeve is being almost eye dropped by the sticking out plastic ties. Cut them short and cut them as close as you can to the clamping assembly, so you don't have any little sticky outy edges that can just ruin your skin in an instant. Here we see an operation of not a large field day, but an effective field day where all of the operators are together. This adds camaraderie. It makes it a lot of fun. It's easy. You can sort of eat together and be together, and they all have headphones and so on, so they're not disturbing each other, yet their antennas go out in all directions. So that's one way of keeping a field day rolling. And of course, good old digital. Don't you love that sound? Well, on some of the digital modes, such as FT8, you don't even have to hear this sound. But FT8 for a lot of folks is the way that they're going to do field day. And that's fine. We applaud that and we think it's great. But don't ignore the bottom of the band that you're maybe operating FT8 on, or the top of the band or the middle of the band, where voice communications are taking place. And by the way, for those of you operating digital this year, make sure you got plenty of the RF chokes on all of your computer leads. Have plenty of these clamp-ons. You can't have enough to keep the RF from a nearby antenna out of your operating computer. So that's something you probably won't find out until you actually set up and begin operating. And I like the bandpass filters. They come from DX Engineering. They have many styles. They've got some triplexers as well, where you have a 3-element beam on 3 different bands, 10, 15, and 20. And each of the bands can operate simultaneously with one coax, then going to the triplexer, then going to each band's radio. So that's something to think about for field day. It really works off well. Take a look on the left-hand side of the log that she is completing. She looks like a lefty, and that is the field day. It is the field day verbiage, the script, you might say, for calling CQ field day and what to say and so on. So if you have a new operator, they feel much more at home with that simple field day script right in front of them in real large letters. And again, make sure everybody has logging. Over to your left is the BioEnno Power battery. And Kevin at BioEnno called me up today going, my goodness, this is going to be a busy weekend. And that he says that the sales of the BioEnno Power through dealers has just skyrocketed because the battery just keeps going and going and keeps that voltage up nice and high. And of course, Bob's parametric receive system really adds some great audio. And what we recommend is don't just put on headphones on 50.145 because no one is going to hear when you're listening for a DX opening. No one, meaning the folks around you, they won't have the excitement that you're hearing on the headphones unless they have audio that they can listen to as well. So have an external speaker. At field day, for those that are going to be operating off of battery power, there's another 100 points. Make sure that any battery controller, solar controller, is not a pulsing type, because if it is, it's going to give out RF noise to everybody on HF. And when they finally discover it's you that's been clobbering the airwaves, they'll get even. So make sure that if you have any solar controllers, that they are RF quiet on the high frequency bands. Well, is the band open on 6 meters? Here's the way you tell. Tune between 50.040 to 50.100 and listen for beacons. And if you're having a scope display, make sure you can read it in the bright sunlight during field day. And when you see little dits and dots like this, you can be assured that the 6 meter band is open. Then go up to the calling frequency, 50.125 for the 6 meter band, which has been open for the last couple of weeks out here in SoCal, and make some noise, because there's a lot of folks that used to be here that have gone to FT8, and let's hope we can get them back when they see that there's actually voice activity on 50.125. Now, on 2 meters and 432, certainly you can do FM on 146.52, 55, and 58. And that's right. They're now allowing you to use, for field day, the 146.52 national simplex frequency. But I recommend be a good ham and tune off of that and go to 55 and 58. Leave 52 for calling. On the 70 centimeter band, 446 and 445 is where you're going to find a lot of FM activity. But on 2 meters sideband, upper sideband, we hover at 144-200 and move up in frequency once we make contact and exchange our field day points, as well as on 432, make your call on 432-100 and then move up in 10 kilohertz steps to make sure you're clear of the calling frequency. But don't just stick on 144-200 or 432-100 with your sideband signal, and make sure that if you're operating FM, you stay above 146.52, 55, and 58. Do not clobber the weak signal portion with a wide FM signal. Satellites, there's additional points for working satellites, and we encourage you that once you've worked a satellite, if you are a single op, operating as a Bravo, 1 or 2 operators. Let other folks use the satellite as well. Don't just continuously work a bunch of stations on the satellite. Gotta share. In fact, the International Space Station is coming over as well a couple of times on Saturday, and they're going to be hopefully on 145 800 simplex, and you'll have an opportunity. But once you work them, let other folks work them as well. Kids, we need more kids getting into our hobby. In fact, there's bonus points for getting kids 18 years or younger on the air. Those that are licensed on tech frequencies or general, depending which class of license they have, or maybe extra as well, you can let them do their thing. For really young kids, you can go ahead and encourage them to take part in, call it direction finding, where we use the ComSpec little RF tags, and the kids love it. They might not be licensed, but they can sure have fun on field day trying to find the hidden T's in the local area. Those are on the 222 megahertz band. And kids always like handheld radios, and if you have kids wanting to play field day, no problem at all. Let them, even though they may not be ham licensed, you can certainly put them on to the little FRS radios, and they will have as much fun as if they were licensed hams. And hopefully those little FRS radios and yakking back and forth and seeing how far apart they can get will encourage them to ultimately study and get their own ham ticket. And kids love the CW. They have no fear of dots and dashes. So what we do is to keep the kids going. And by the way, there's points for that. It's called the educational section. In fact, ARRL Rule 7310 says that CW Keers are fun, T-hunts are fun, solar demo is fun, snap kits is fun, building a small little dipole. These are great ways to go. So get the kids involved and have them pound a little bit of brass doing some CW. And there's Tracy Lineker of the Mountaintop Amateur Radio Association. He's operating low power. And there are points for operating low power, either solar panel or wind power. And again, this is ARRL Rule 7.3.8. There's points for using water, flowing water, to power your station. I love this one. It's actually in the rules from the league, and that is you can use methane. So I would suggest we do the methane after you have your big barbecue dinner, and that's when methane will help keep these stations on the air. And John, with the Loop Company, says that be cautious when you're operating any loop down on 40 or 75 meters. Try and reduce your power. You can get away running 40 or 50 watts up at 10 meters and 15 and 20 meters. But down on 40, especially if it's overcast, as we have here in Southern California, you want to make sure that you don't accidentally arc over that capacitor. And you can see that's his job, is to take them apart after hams went, well, I may have hit it with 100 watts. Bango. Once you arc a cap, it's generally toasted until he does his expert in getting it squared away. So thanks, John, for your help. Keep your eye on the weather. And the weather we like here in Southern Cal is when we see a big tropospheric duct all the way to Hawaii that we see here, because who wants to work Hawaii? The microwavers. Well, I doubt if they're going to do it on 10 gigs, but it has been done on 5 gigs and 2 gigs and 1200 and 432 and 2 meters all the way from the West Coast to Hawaii. But that's only during periods of tropospheric ducting. San Bernardino Microwave Society says we're ready for the big band opening. And they're going to have a lot of fun. So, make sure that your field day is welcoming everybody by having loads of signs up there, public location. Make sure you do your media publicity for extra points. Get extra points for message handling, working the satellites, a W1AW message, educational operation with snap kits and demos, government officials, law and fire department visits. These are worth good points. The Gordo station, getting new folks on the air. ARRL website posting. I hope you're already up on the league's posting site. Social media, safety officer, most important, that safety officer for field day. So everybody, we hope you have a safe field day. We hope that you have plenty to eat to get that methane going for alternate power. And again, I'm not kidding. It's ARRL Rule 7.3.8 on alternate ways of generating power. And, of course, the good meal will keep those field day operators rolling all night. So from Gordo out here in Southern California, we wish you all the very best of a field day. Make sure you've got your protective lenses on, you got your hard hat, and if you're doing any tower climbing, as you just heard from Bob and the team, be very, very careful with any tower climbing for field day. And most important, take part in field day. Even though you might not be a contester or you're really not into just yakking on the radio, come to field day, help with the setup, bring some hamburgers and French fries and some sodas, bring some good old windscreen materials for a windy day and UV repellent to keep the sun from burning you up, and have fun on field day any way you want to add to field day. And for those of you wishing to operate just from the comfort of your home, that's fine as well. Home stations are mentioned here in the ARRL rules. Home station would be a Delta station, E for emergency power at your Delta station. The Foxtrot stations will be at an EOC. And for those of you that just want to drive around Mobile, you'll be a Charlie station. So above all, be a station, get on the air this weekend, and let's hear how field day goes for all of us. Now, part of our field day apparatus is probably going to be a tuner or two, and that's where LDG is the king of antenna tuners. Right, Don?
Yeah, they certainly are. And getting back to this methane thing here, that takes me down the rabbit hole of plumbing issues. And it's not really something that we want to get into perhaps on this episode of Ham Nation, but maybe we can ask Ted Randall at I bet Ted Randall at WTW, he's probably an expert on the methane. I have a feeling he's had a lot of experience with the methane in his years. And speaking of Ted and WTWW, if you're listening to 5085 or 15.810 right now, you're hearing us because they broadcast Ham Nation live, and they typically do the Field Day Live program, where Ted will be in there live taking your calls on WTWW about Field Day from your Field Day site. So I haven't gotten confirmation from Ted that they're doing it this year, but they generally always do. So I see no reason why they shouldn't. And make sure you call Ted with your plumbing questions, because he's kind of an expert in that. And this episode of Ham Nation is also brought to you by the experts at LDG Electronics. LDG gives you state-of-the-art automatic antennas tuners for every amateur need, from QRP to QRO, fixed, portable, remote. An LDG tuner will absolutely match your radio to your antenna, no matter where you're using it, using their lightning-fast proprietary tuning algorithms. Check out the LDG AT1000 Pro 2. That is the flagship automatic antenna tuner. It's made for QRO, or high-power hams. It'll handle 1,000-watt sideband, 500 watts FM and digital, tunes from 1.8 to 54 continuously. Matches Yagi's, dipoles, inverted V's, slopers, virtually any coax-fed antenna from 6 to 1,000 ohms impedance, probably even those made by copper tubing or out of copper tubing for your plumbing issues. Tuning time generally under 10 seconds. Memory tuning under 0.2 of a second. Large, easy-to-read bar graph, watt meter, 2 selectable ranges, dual antenna switch, 2,000 memories for each position. These are cool bits of kit. And LDG is a family-owned and operated company, too. They're dedicated to making innovative quality products for the amateur market, and their focus is on anticipating and meeting your needs and providing you with world-class support that is literally just an email or a phone call away. And all the LDG tuners carry a full 2-year warranty that is fully transferable. If you ever sell or give away your LDG tuner, the remainder of the warranty goes with it. Free return shipping on all the warranty repairs. All the LDG products, including ballons and cables, they're all available for purchase through select resellers. So check out which automatic antenna tuner is right for you. Go to ldgelectronics.com to learn more. That's ldgelectronics.com. We thank LDG Electronics for their support of Ham Nation. Now let's take a look at the news of the week and the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov with Amateur Radio Newsline.
From Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2172. These are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, June 19th, 2019. Preparations are underway for the World Radio Communications Conference for 2023. Its agenda must be set well in advance of the meeting, and there's one item being proposed for inclusion that is already drawing fire.
Region 1 of the International Amateur Radio Union has come out strongly against an agenda item proposed by the French delegation to the World Radio Communication Conference 2023 that would give up primary user rights to the Region 1 2-meter band, 144 to 146 megahertz, in favour of aeronautical mobile use. The IARU called the frequency range an important and widely used part of the spectrum used for amateur radio and amateur satellites. The IARU views with grave concern this proposal and will be representing this view in regional telecommunications organisations and with the ITU to seek to obtain assurances that this part of the spectrum will remain a primary allocation for the amateur services. IARU Region 1 includes Asiatic Russia, Europe, Africa and the Middle East. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Ed Durant, DD5LP.
In the game of contesting, youthful energy is as much a plus as a good station and a great antenna. With the IARU's HF Championships barely a month away, young contesters are busy finding matchups right now so they can make use of both.
The youth contesting program is preparing for its second round of matching young hams with HF stations for the IARU HF Championships to be held on July 13th and 14th. The program, sponsored by the Young Amateurs Radio Club, is designed to encourage owners of contest-grade amateur radio stations to open their doors to young contesters who live within a day's drive of their station. If you have a good HF station or even a great one, or are a young contester interested in operating such a station, apply by July 1st at yarc.world/YCP. After matches are made, the young contesters will be notified by email in advance to make arrangements for visiting the station. They'll learn the station's location, hours of operation, and details about meals. Here's a great chance to mentor some younger operators and get more youth on the air. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Neil Rapp, WB9VPG.
Amateur radio operators are known for their giving spirit, so when one group in Dominica received 4 handheld transceivers as a gift for its disabled members, that spirit shined with a special brightness.
There's nothing like keying a mic for the first time and logging your first contact. Members of the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities will now be able to do that. Thanks to donations of 4 handheld transceivers the organisation has received from the Dominica Amateur Radio Club and the International Organisation for Migration. The club's donation means that radio enthusiasts in the Group for the Disabled can start putting their new privileges into action. That should not be a long time coming. The executive director of the Disabled Persons Group, Nathalie Murthy, said that the newest radio operators in Dominica are still awaiting licenses from the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, which is reviewing their licenses following completion of the training. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Ed Durant, DD5LP, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now here's the solar update with Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
We have a small coronal hole that's rotating in through the Earth's strike zone and a spotless sun, but that doesn't mean the space weather's boring. Those stories and more in the news this week. This forecast sponsored in part by Eric Johansson. Check him out at Instagram.com/Scubist. Space weather this week is definitely calmed down compared to last week. Now, we do have a remnant coronal hole that's rotating in through the Earth strike zone this week, and it's going to be sending us several different pockets of fast solar wind, but they're likely not going to give us much in the way of disturbances. So aurora photographers, especially you at mid-latitude, you're most likely going to have to sit this one out because I don't think it's going to bring us much. Now, on top of that, we also have a very spotless sun. So this means that solar flux has again tanked. We are back into the high 60s, which means poor radio propagation again on Earth's day side. And unfortunately, these conditions are going to continue easily over the next week. Switching to your M-flare threat meter, you can see the X-ray flux continues to be completely flatlined here, which means by proxy, the solar flux is also extremely low. As a matter of fact, if I go day by day by day, it kind of looks like a broken record, doesn't it? There's just nothing going on. We've got no sunspots. We've got no flares. Geez, we've got no flux either. So this is why amateur radio and operators and emergency responders are absolutely groaning, because propagation on Earth's day side continues to be dismal. We have sporadic E. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you've got a little bit of a boost, but you're not getting much help by the sun. So deal with this over the next week, because these conditions are easily going to continue, possibly for the next 10 days before we get a reprieve. Switching to our solar storm conditions, as you can see, we actually did get a little bit of activity over the past week. Right around the 8th, we got hit by a stealthy solar storm that bumped us up to storm levels for a short while, and some aurora field reporters actually did manage to catch some photos. But as you can see, it didn't last very long. We jumped back down to unsettled and then quiet conditions, and then around the end of the 13th into the 14th, we got hit by a small pocket of fast solar wind that bumped us back up to active conditions. Once again, it's solar minimum, so it didn't last very long. And then we jumped back down to quiet conditions, and we kind of been hovering about quiet conditions ever since. But we could bump up and down from unsettled to quiet here over the next week as these small pockets of fast wind continue to hit us. Switching to your solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating the hit from some small pockets of fast solar wind. They're not expected to be all that much, but they will be a bit sporadic. At high latitudes, NOAA is expecting unsettled conditions with up to about a 20% of chance of a minor storm, kind of on and off in through the weekend. Now, mid-latitudes, we're only expecting unsettled conditions again, but only about a 15% chance of active conditions. And this should kind of settle down as we move through the weekend, but expect next week to look a lot like this as these kind of small pockets continue to hit us. So aurora is going to be extremely elusive even at high latitudes. So aurora photographers, I don't know, it's going to be a tough one to call. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything is still in the green when it comes to solar flares. We do still have a spotless sun, and I know I sound like a broken record, so we have no risk for radio blackouts or any big flares right now. This should make GPS users very happy. Your reception on Earth's day side should be fantastic. Unfortunately, it also means that the solar flux is back into the high 60s. This means poor propagation for radio conditions on Earth's day side, and these conditions will likely continue throughout this week and in through next week as well before we get a reprieve. Now, also because we are at solar minimum, the cosmic wave penetration is higher than it normally would be. So you frequent flyers, and this does include you air crew who fly over 800 hours annually and fly at high latitudes and high altitudes, you are in the moderate range for radiation dose, and this does include prenatal passengers. So please take this into consideration in your flight plans. So the space weather this week is definitely calming down compared to last week. Now, we do have a few pockets of fast solar wind that are going to be hitting us over the next few days and possibly in through the rest of this week. But aurora is going to be extremely elusive. So your aurora photographers, well, noctilucent clouds might actually be easier to spot. Speaking of spot, we continue to have a spotless sun, and this means that solar flux is down into the high 60s and radio propagation on Earth's day side is not too good. So amateur and emergency and shortwave radio responders, well, you guys are just going to have to suffer for a while, possibly the next 10 days or even a little bit longer before we get a reprieve and the solar flux gets boosted when those old regions return back into Earth view. The only really good news are GPS users. Well, you guys are looking pretty good. I mean, you've got a little bit of disturbances in the solar wind that kind of stabilize that upper atmosphere, even at low latitudes, so your GPS reception should look pretty good there. And on top of that, the solar flux continues to stay low. So GPS reception all around the globe should be top-notch. I'm Tamitha Skov. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Dr. T. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. She is a great follow, at Tamitha Skov. She's always there with up to the second, it seems like, information day or night, 24/7. She's on it. And someone in the chat room asked what she's doing for field day. I don't know. I haven't heard. I'm not sure. Don't know if she has a station set up or not. She's probably going to be busy being husband and mom, in addition to keeping track of the solar weather. So we'll try to get her a little bit more on the air. And check her out, spaceweatherwoman.com. There's her website. Okay, back to field day now. Whether you're an expert or like me, you're still trying to figure out how to spell FT8, Val has us covered. Right, Val?
Well, I wouldn't exactly call myself an expert. I'm an amateur like the rest of you, but I'm going to show you guys a video on how to set up your laptop for FT8, set up your FT8 software for field day. So go ahead and roll that, Victor. Can you believe it? Field day is this weekend already, so get out the bug spray. I'm going to focus on how you can operate FT8 during field day this year. Now, this is more for the seasoned FT8 operator and how to set it up in the settings. First, you're going to want to go into your file in your WSJT software, then settings, and then hit the advanced tab. So you're going to want to check the ARRL field day box and then put in your field day exchange, which is going to be your number of transmitters and class and your section. Then hit OK and go over to the general tab. Now here's where you're going to put in the call, the field day call, not your call, and put in the grid square of where you're going to be operating field day. And then also make sure you check the Show DXCC Grid and Station Worked Before box, because I'm going to show you how to color code that so you know all the new ones that come up. So when you're done hitting OK there, you're going to go to the Colors tab and make sure you click the News Call boxes, the two blue boxes. And then that's going to show up, any new station is going to show up as blue now on your FT8 screen. Now, after you hit OK here and you close out of the settings box, you're going to get this log pop up on you. Just click through this when this shows up, but this is a reminder. Make sure you save your log somewhere, and then you're going to want to go in and clear out your file to get ready to hold just the field day QSOs, and you can do that under the File tab. So now when you go to your FT8 screen, you're going to see there is the correct exchanges back and forth for FT8 during field day. It's not my call, it's my field day station's call sign. Also, make sure you check that hold transmit frequency box. A lot of people are asking as a courtesy to do that for field day. So make sure you go ahead and clear that, and you're all set to go. That is if you're going to use WSJT as the logging software for field day. So we're only going to be using FT8 for 6 meters on our free station, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. So we don't need to integrate it with our logging software. But if you want to go ahead and do that, go back into your file settings and then hit the reporting tab. And you're going to want to put in the IP address so that the WSJD can find your N1MM. And then you go into N1MM and put in the address so that N1MM can find your WSJT. And in N1MM, you go into the Configure Broadcast Data tab to do that. And then you're also going to want to hit the Digital Modes tab. And that's where we're going to put in the path to where your WSJT executable file is. So they can sync that way as well. And you're going to have to restart everything and do it all over. A lot of help online in order to do this. Not enough time to go into it in detail here. So you're going to want to write these down. These are the suggested frequencies for field day for FT8. Some of them, if you notice, are not on the normal frequencies, and that is because we don't want to disrupt normal DXing and QSOs with FT8 during field day operation. No, so hopefully you can have some fun using FT8 for field day. I think it's going to be very active this weekend. Also, if you need extra help, a great resource, obviously, is the WSJT manual. You can get that online. That's where I got a lot of my information, as well as the FT8 for Field Day Facebook page. that was a lot of help for me as well. Now, maybe you don't have a place to go for field day. Doesn't mean you're out of the game. You can operate from home. I'm going to kind of go over some of the categories you can enter as. Obviously, if you're going to enter as a group or club, you're going to be a Class A, and then you add the number of HF transmitters you have that will be on the air to the beginning. So we're going to have 2 HF transmitters, so we're going to be 2A. Now, Class B is the same as Class A, except it's only 1 or 2 people. And, of course, you all need to be under non-commercial power, whether you're an A or a B or a mobile. Mobile could be airplane, boat, in your car, anything like that. That would be a Class C. Now, if you don't have a club, you can operate from home. You could just be a Class D operating under normal commercial power situation like you do on any other day. The only problem is if you're a Class D, you cannot work another Class D station, so it doesn't turn into a regular at-home contest. Let me rephrase that. If you're a Delta station and another Delta station calls you, you can go ahead and work them and put them in the log. They're just not going to count. They're not going to give you any points. Sometimes you have a nice rhythm going. It's just easier to work them and put them in the log, even though they don't count. And, of course, you can work all the other classes, no problem, and you'll get full points for those. Now, if you want to work at home but be under non-commercial power, say a generator, you could do that, and you'll be a Class E, and you can work anybody you want. And there's Class F. You probably won't find a lot of these, but they're operating from an emergency operations center. So those are the major classes you can have during field day operation that you're going to hear. You're going to hear 2 alphas and 1 deltas and things like that. So now, if you're operating under Class A or F only, you get to have what they call free stations. Obviously, there's the go-to station. That's the get on the air. That's to get new people or non-hams on the air. And it can be HF, VHF, or UHF. Doesn't matter. You can also have a free VHF station. We're a 2 alpha. We're going to have 2 HF transmitters, but we're going to also have a VHF station set up solely for 6 meters. And we're going to be using that for FT8, obviously. And if things get really active, we'll go to phone and CW because we can do that a lot faster. So make sure you utilize those free stations if you can. And I will see you guys on the air at Field Day. Now, that's not the final piece of the FT8 puzzle if you're going for Field Day. You want it, obviously, with FT8, it's of the utmost importance that you have good time sync or the correct time on your laptop or computer you're using for your FT8 software. And some of you, if you're going to a field day site with Wi-Fi or internet, no problem. We use Dimensions 4. It's free. We download it and it syncs your clock to the WWV. So that's a good way to do that. But many of you may be going to a field day site where there is no internet or Wi-Fi. So in that case, I know I've done this a few years back, but it's been a while. So here's what I want you to do. I'm not in front of my radio and you can't really hear it. It's kind of back there. So I want you to turn your radio on right now. Turn your ham radio on and hit the 30 meter button. Okay, go to 30 meters. Even if you don't have an antenna on 30 meters, you don't need one. Put it on 30 meters right now and then go down to 10.000, all the way at the bottom of the 30 meter band. Get all the way down there. And then hit your mode button until you get to AM. You want to be AM, 30 meters, 10.000, and turn up your volume. You should start hearing little ticks noises. That's a tick for every second on this clock that's on your radio. And then at the top of every minute, it's going to say when you hear the tone, the exact time will be. And so that's a good way you can check that your computer is in sync with the national clock, or you can set your clock that way, old school, so go ahead and do that. And you can do that on other bands as well. I always like to do 30 meters. You don't need an antenna, and 30 meters is pretty much open morning, noon, and night. So that's a good one to just get in the habit of using. It also gives you solar weather reports at the top of every hour. So it's kind of cool that way too. Another cool thing, if you want to show that slide, Victor, that they're doing this year, they've never done before. They're going to have live scoreboard for field day. So those of you who are more contesty like field day operators, you can go ahead and go into the contest online scoreboard. I did do a video on this. It's too long to go into now, but if you go to my YouTube channel It's the one that shows a horse racing, and that shows you how to go into N1MM or write log. N3FJP also allows live scoring on their software, so go in there. I show you how to do that, but on this one you'll want to check, instead of CQ contest like my video shows, you're going to check contest online scoreboard. So you can watch and see how you're doing compared to other people in your category. So that's kind of cool. And so I just want to say, I know everybody's talking about safety. Be mindful when you're putting up your antennas and your tents for power lines. I know when my son was in scouting at Jamboree, 4 kids watched their dads die while they're putting up in a tent and hit a power line. So be very mindful of power lines all around you, when tents, antennas, all that stuff. So I hope you all have a safe and fun field day. I'm going to be N9AU. We're going to be 2 Alpha from Wisconsin. So hopefully I'll get to work some of you guys on the air, maybe FT8, but hopefully phone. And I'll see you guys next time. And I'm going to pass it over, and let's hear a word from ICOM.
Contest from home or remotely, and create your own band opening with ICOM's newest SDR transceiver, the IC9700. Bringing direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal market, the IC9700 all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features. Dedicated amateur satellite operation, color touchscreen, D-Star capability built in, RF direct sampling on the 2-meter and 70-centimeter bands, dual independent receivers capable of full duplex operation as well as dual watch, and 100 watts max output power on 2 meters, 75 watts max on 70 centimeters, and 10 watts max on 1.2 gigahertz. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest signals even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The ICOM IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of a SDR radio. RF direct sampling, 110 dBm RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. The IC7300 is changing the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great ICOM radios. And don't forget to be ham active in June. Participate in both the June VHF contest as well as Field Day. Submit your logs and see how you did in the pile-up. And ICOM invites you to enter in their drawings for, well, weekly swag prizes, some great swag prizes, t-shirts and hats, and a monthly grand prize drawing for a new radio. Go to icomamerica.com/hamnation after this in each episode and register to win. For June, that new radio is going to be the ICOM IC2730A dual band mobile. It has simultaneous VHF-UHF or VHF-VHF or UHF-UHF receive, rugged mil standard 810, a larger display size, weather alert function, and there's free CS2730 programming software, and there's an optional Bluetooth board available as well. So go to icomamerica.com/hamnation after this and each episode and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow ICOM America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And since Field Day is the topic this week, I just want to mention what I'm going to be doing for Field Day, or what I hope to do. Years past, we'd like to go out in the woods, set up a campsite, do Field Day from there. But the last 2 weeks, last 2 years, we were not able to do that. We had our sites ready, but the weather just prevented it. I don't know about this year. It's not looking good. Should know tomorrow whether or not we're going to be able to get to the site, because there is more weather in the area. And I just got my fingers crossed that maybe that big thunderstorm that's been out in Dallas this afternoon won't come over here, but I really don't know. So we'll find out about that. If we do as we would like and are able to go to the woods, well, here is a site we plan to use this year. This is, well, it's way out in the woods back in Schrock, Mississippi, where we have done field day in years past. This is a little different site than we normally had. It's up on a hill, so we've got a little better height there. We've cleaned off some land up there. There's a good road back to it right now because they're doing some logging back in there. But if it's muddy and the log trucks are going through there, it's not going to be good for us to get in there. But here's our site we hope that we can use. We'll just have to see. Fingers crossed that it will work out and we could go here and pitch the tents. If not, well, we'll be right back here in the shack like we always are. And we'll operate from here. We'll use the Collins 20V2. No, wait a minute. That's not my Collins 20V2. That's Twit's. So we won't have access to that, but well, that would be nice fire for field day. What I will have access for and what I'm going to be using for a radio, particularly if we can go out to the woods, is my favorite mobile rig, and I have used this several times on field day before. It makes a great rig. It's my ICOM IC7000. And here it is right here, set up, listening to 40 meters right now, but I've added a few things to it here because it's a great radio, really good receiver in it. Sounds good, has good filtering. It's got almost everything that you could possibly want in an HF rig. And, well, it virtually does. With the absence of one feature that I have gotten spoiled by, I've got one on my 7700, and a lot of the newer rigs have as well a band scope or a pan adapter built into them. And the 7000, well, it's got one or a band scope in it, but it's not real time. So it's not like you can sit there and watch the signals on a band scope and then tune to them easily. Well, that's why I've added these other parts here that I'll be using with it this year that are going to make it pretty nice. And one of them just fell over here. That's because I got this kind of stuck together to try to show you tonight. Well, it's not going to cooperate as far as display. It's kind of shy over there. But there's a number of things I've got here. First off, I picked up this at Dayton Hamvention this year. This is an SDR Play RSP Duo. It's a software-defined radio. It goes from, I think they said 10 hertz all the way to 2 gigahertz. So it's going to cover any band that I'm going to be operating on for sure. And the software with it, well, right here. I'm using the SDR Uno software. It's a pretty nice software package and just happens to include a spectrum scope here or a pan adapter, whatever you want to call it. And that's doing a couple of nice things here. I had to add a few pieces to make it do this, but I've got the band scope. I can see all the signals happening right now on 40 meters. Which is great because I know where the activity is and where there's a possible new contact there for field day. And I can just take my mouse, pick out one of them, and click on it, and it tunes right to it. But it's also tuning my rig to it as well. Now, I don't know that the receiver in here with the filtering is going to work as well at field day as, say, my trusty IC7000 here. I hope it performs well, but, you know, with a couple other stations in the area, could be some interference on it that I might not get on a regular ham transceiver. I don't know that yet because I haven't been using this long enough to have that kind of experience with it. The main thing I wanted it for is it gives me a pan adapter where I can just point and click. It tunes my rig to that frequency, and I can either listen on the rig here and take advantage of its filtering, or I can listen off the SDR here. But either way, I've got access to the pan adapter there, which is what I was wanting. Now, a couple other pieces to the puzzle here, and I can't show you how this works tonight because there's not enough time for that, but I've got a couple of Altoids 10s here. This one right here just has a little double pole, double throw toggle switch in it. I plug my headphones into that, and I've got one jack that goes into the side of my laptop, another one that goes into the speaker jack on the IC7000. And I can select which one I want to listen to, depending on which receiver seems to be working best on a signal at that point. There's a couple other things here. There's another Altoids 10 back there. That is a breakout box that I built on Ham Nation here years ago to go with this rig. And the only thing I'm breaking out on it is the circuit that you would use to key an amplifier whenever you key that rig up. And that's important to do because I'm feeding the same antenna to both the HF transmitter here and the software-defined radio at the same time. And I don't want to key 100 watts into my laptop here and burn something up. So I have this nice little box here that MFJ has recently, this is version 2 of it, I believe. It's the MFJ 1708B SDR. It's an RF sensing SDR receiver TR switch. And that means it can sense whenever you key up the rig, and it will automatically disconnect the port going to the receiver here so that you don't send transmitter power back into it. It also has a control input on it, which I'm using because I trust that better than I trust a RF sensing switch, although the sensing switch should do the trick. So I'm controlling it off of the line that would key up an amplifier. I'm flipping that switch with it. And I've got to say, I really like that little box. I've only had it a few days, but it works perfectly for what I want to do here. And one reason is that it's not only a RF switch in there, it is a splitter as far as receive periods. It can send the same antenna signal to both the IC7700 or 7000 here, as well as my SDR play. So I can listen on either one just by flipping that switch, and it works. And when I key up, it just disconnects the SDR play out of the circuit here. Now, to get the software to control the rig, I have to go through the serial port. I'm using the cat commands out of the laptop here and the software, and that controls the frequency on my rig. And of course, if I change frequencies on the rig, it changes frequencies over here on the computer as well. So they track either way. That took a few more pieces to pull off. I'll be looking at that in the future here. But this is basically what I'm planning on operating with for field day, minus antennas. And of course, I got my Heil Pro Set 3 sitting back over there for headphones. And we're using the N1MM software that Val told us about a few years back. And yeah, I think I prefer it to the Squirrel Logger I had used for field day previously. So I've set it up where I've got both of them here on the laptop. I'm ready to go. Now, if I can just get a little bit of good weather, we're looking for a great field day out in the woods this year. If not, we'll just have a great one right here in the shack. So that's my field day plans thus far. We'll see how it actually turns out, and we'll let you know next week. Now, I know Amanda's in here, and she has been in the chat room, and maybe she's got a few questions from some of the viewers out there tonight. Amanda?
Well, good evening. Yes, I do. First of all, everyone goes out to field day to love the heat, the hot, the sweat, the bugs, everything. Guess what, everybody? I'm going to this place in Colorado this weekend that it's calling for snow. I am not kidding you. Snow.
Wow.
53 for the high, 30 for the low, and called for snow. Not typical, but it has been a crazy weather year. So, first of all, I have a few questions. What's everyone doing for field day? What's your call sign going to be? Gordo, you first.
I'm going to be operating probably W6 NOA. That's our club call, no B on it. So that's what to listen for, and I'll be out there.
Very good. What about you, Val?
I'll be operating from Maquanago, Wisconsin. N9AU will be 2 Alpha. And then I have a little trick for you if it snows. Okay, if you're camping, put some rocks in the fire, like this size maybe, for like a couple hours, and then stick them in your sleeping bag. It helps warm your sleeping bag up.
Heck yeah. We're bringing a tent and a sleeping bag, but we might crash in somebody else's camper because it's going to be so cold. George, what about you? What call sign are you guys going to be operating under?
Well, we are planning on operating under my call this year, W5 JDX. We're planning on operating as 3 Alpha from, well, our field day site right here. But if that doesn't work out, we'll be operating right here. I don't know if we'll do Alpha or not, but there'll be 3 of us, and we'll just work out of the shack. Maybe not fire up the generators this year if we're forced to operate out of the shack.
Very good. And we'll be in 0SZ. So listen for us on the air. Field day is my favorite time of the year. I really love it. I love to find newcomers and get them on the air and such. I bet Valerie is the same way. It's just a really fun time to teach people and show them what HF sounds like and how things operate. A lot of technicians show up and they didn't realize that this is what HF is. So minus that. So here's the big problem when we're all operating. You hear these huge stations from maybe the Ronald Reagan Library where they're running as a 26 Alpha or something.
Oh.
It's a crazy station. But Gordo, how do these stations not take interference from the other radio sitting next to them? What are some of the ways that they manage to field that?
One way, of course, are the bandpass filters. Another way is to use some of the good old Johnson manual tuners. And the manual tuners have very sharp, steep skirts on especially 75 meters at night. So a good old matchbox many times will help tighten it up. And of course, for those big stations, they're going to run the top of the line HF transceivers with all sorts of internal filters, micro filters, and that's going to help minimize the RF from an alternate band. But anytime you get a field day situation, one has to be very cautious not to overpower a nearby operator on an adjacent band with too much power.
Okay. And George, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I like the filters. That is a good way. It may be a little late to get them this year, although DX Engineering does ship really fast, and that's where we got these from. It's low-band systems. Oh, Val has them there, too. I think that's the same brand, yeah. We've got them for, I think, maybe 4 different bands. So you just put one of these on each of your antennas on the different bands, and then we just swap them around. Whoever wants to work a particular band, we hand them the coax that's going to that filter, and these really do help out. Otherwise, you might hear a little splatter from the guy sitting next to you over here, and headphones won't take that out. So getting it out of the antennas, something like this is a good method to do it. Also, separate your antennas as much as you can, still being within the limits of field day. That's it. That's what we do. Don't overmodulate. don't run excessive power, particularly if you're with high modulation and digital modes, and you'll probably be okay.
Well, there you go. I've been at field days where you're making a contact and you're trying to copy the station, then you hear the CW coming in over you, and you're just like, nah, I couldn't copy that. So it's important. The other thing that's important is, and I don't think it's as important as a safety officer at your site, but an engineer officer would be important, because a lot of people will just sit down at a radio and say, 40's not doing so well, I'm just going to go ahead and switch over to 20. And they don't realize that this filter is connected to the back of their radio, right? So
right.
That's a bad thing. Always make sure that you can switch bands before you just sit down at a radio. And you should always have somebody that's kind of an overseer of this stuff. But, it's 2 a.m., everyone else is in bed, and you're just like, I'm just going to switch through the bands, see if 80 is better than 40. Just always double check before you do that. Just my 2 cents. Other than that, I just want to say I had a wonderful visit with W0TLM this week. I went to their club and gave a presentation, and they were a fun group, really smart group, by the way. Other than that, let's go over the nets. We have D-Star and 14 Charlie. We don't have a 40-meter net because Kevin, he's taken lightning over there in Florida, so he didn't want to turn on his station. Completely understandable. You always have to be safe of that. By the way, be safe of that during field day. So if the thunderstorms are coming in, turn those radios off. That's a good time to start up the barbecue and fire up those brats. And we have the 20-meter net on 14268. So hope you guys, and DMR, sorry, on TAC 311. So join in there, and everybody have a wonderful, wonderful, fun field day, but also be safe. Sunscreen, winter clothing if you're in Colorado, and lots of water. So, and be careful of everything.
Yes.
Yep. Well, boy, fun show tonight, and it's always great to hear what everybody's going to be doing for field day, because we all do it a little bit differently, and that's a variety of amateur radio. But Amanda's going to the snow. Here, the heat index is going to be around 100 degrees or just a little over. So, I would trade you a little of that snow, I think, by the time the weekend's over. Well, fun times. All of you, get on the air this weekend if there's any way you possibly can. Operate field day. It's a lot of fun. If you can't, well, at least try to find a club in your area or someone who is doing it and go by for a visit. Most of them would love to have you show up there and check it out, see what's going on, and probably most of them would be happy to let you sit in and operate for a few minutes. Even if you're inexperienced on FM, never operated field day before, somebody there will be willing to tell you what you need to say, how you need to do it, and what to listen for when they answer you, and just guide you right through the process. It's very simple, but if you've never done it before, you may not have any idea what those numbers and letters mean, and there's not that many of them, so it's really pretty simple. Thanks for joining us tonight here on Ham Nation, and join us back next week. We'll find out how everyone did. We know already that Val is probably going to be the one that comes back with the most points, but that's okay. We wouldn't expect less. Val,
no.
Are you going to rack them up, or are the poor solar conditions going to hurt us?
We're only at 2 Alpha. There's only about 6 or 7 of us, and Jerry and I usually take the night owl shift, so I don't really rack up that many points. But we usually do first place or top 3 at least in our division. So
that's good. I take the night owl position too. I like the night hour shifts. You don't get interrupted as much, so you can kind of work it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we
no
don't
one
have
wants
enough
it, the graveyard.
Yeah, there's only 3 of us, so we pretty much all operate as much as we can stand it till till we drop. Amanda, we're looking forward to hearing about field day in the snow. That sounds like a lot of fun, and boy, it's certainly a lot cooler than it's going to be here.
I'll take some videos, and we're bringing our 7610, so I'm really excited. I might do some Facebook Live stuff. You guys stay tuned. So watch over the weekend.
Cool. Oh. And Gordo, will we be frying anything out on the beach, or what exactly will we be doing?
Oh, we'll be right next to the beach, so we'll have the salt air coming in from the blue Pacific. And again, we encourage you all, be safe around field day. 73.
Yes. Very good information there, Gordo. Yeah, be safe. So easy to get hurt, and that just is a big bummer for everybody on field day. Well, we'll see y'all again next week. Come back here, join us, and we'll find out as well what Bob and Don did. 7-3.